Imagine a world without writing. No books, no emails, no street signs, not even a simple shopping list. How would we remember anything? How would we build cities, run governments, or pass down our knowledge? It seems almost impossible, right? Well, for most of human history, that was reality. But around 5,000 years ago, in a sun-drenched land between two rivers, something extraordinary happened. The Sumerians, in what is now modern-day Iraq, invented writing. And they didn't do it on paper, they did it on humble blocks of clay. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're journeying back to the dawn of history to uncover the story of the very first clay tablets. These aren't just ancient artifacts, they are the bedrock of human civilization, the first time our ancestors could truly speak across time. So grab your virtual trowel and let's dig in. Our story begins in Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This fertile crescent was a cradle of civilization, home to the Sumerians. They were brilliant innovators. They invented the wheel, developed complex irrigation systems, and built the world's first true cities like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu. As these cities grew, life became much more complicated. Think about it. You have thousands of people living together. You have farmers bringing in harvests of barley and wheat. You have temple officials managing vast estates. You have merchants trading goods like wool, pottery, and metals. How do you keep track of it all? Who owes what to whom? How much grain is stored in the temple granary? Human memory, as amazing as it is, has its limits. A new tool was needed, not for farming or building, but for managing information. This practical need for record-keeping was the spark that ignited the invention of writing. The earliest Sumerian writing wasn't about poetry or telling epic stories. It was about business. It was about administration. It was essentially ancient accounting. Temple administrators needed a reliable way to track goods flowing in and out of the city's storehouses. So what did they use? The most abundant resource they had, river mud. They would shape this wet clay into small, pillow-shaped tablets, easy to hold in one hand. Then, using a stylus made from a reed, they would press marks into the soft surface. The stylus, when pressed into the clay, created a distinctive wedge-shaped mark. This is where the name for their script, cuneiform, comes from. It literally means wedge-shaped. The earliest tablets, dating back to around 3200 BCE, are what we call proto-cuneiform. The signs weren't yet representing sounds or syllables. They were pictographs, simple drawings of the things they represented. A drawing of a head of barley meant barley. A drawing of an ox's head meant ox. They also used simple circles and lines to represent numbers. So, a tablet might have a picture of barley next to a few marks, meaning so many units of barley. It was a ledger, a receipt, a spreadsheet frozen in clay. Let's picture a scene in the city of Uruk. A farmer brings his grain tithe to the temple. A scribe, a highly respected professional, takes a lump of fresh clay. He records the farmer's name, or a symbol representing him, the type of grain, and the quantity. Then the tablet is left to bake in the sun or fired in a kiln, making the record permanent. It was a revolutionary system. For the first time, an agreement, a transaction, a debt could exist as a physical object, undeniable and lasting. It was the birth of the contract. This system was incredibly effective. Archaeologists have unearthed hundreds of thousands of these clay tablets. The vast majority of them are not epic poems or king lists, but administrative and economic records. We have tablets that record daily beer rations for workers. Yes, workers were often paid in beer, which was a staple of their diet. We have marriage contracts, land sale agreements, and legal disputes, all meticulously recorded. These little clay blocks give us an unparalleled, intimate glimpse into the daily lives of people who lived 5 millennia ago. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Over a few centuries, this practical accounting tool began to evolve. Scribes started to realize the potential of their wedge-shaped marks. The pictographs became more stylized and abstract, quicker to write. More importantly, they began to use the signs to represent not just objects but sounds, the sounds of the Sumerian language. This is called the rebus principle. Think of it like this. If you wanted to write the word belief, you could draw a picture of a bee and a picture of a leaf. Belief. Belief. This was the quantum leap. Once signs could represent sounds, anything that could be spoken could now be written. Writing was no longer just for counting sheep. It could be used for storytelling, for writing letters, for recording laws, for expressing religious beliefs, and for composing poetry. It was the moment writing truly became a reflection of the human mind. The script, cuneiform, was so successful that it was adapted by many other civilizations in the ancient Near East, like the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and the Hittites. It was used for over 3,000 years to write a dozen different languages. The stories that were eventually written down on these tablets are some of the oldest literature in the world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, with its tale of a great flood and a hero's search for immortality, was first inscribed on these clay tablets. Our own stories, our own literature, all trace their lineage back to these humble beginnings. But what happened to them? Why don't we write on clay today? Eventually, simpler alphabetic scripts like the one developed by the Phoenicians proved to be more efficient. Papyrus from Egypt and later parchment were lighter and easier to handle than heavy clay tablets. By the 1st century CE, cuneiform had fallen out of use, and the knowledge of how to read it was completely lost for nearly 2,000 years. The wedge-shaped marks became a total mystery. It wasn't until the 19th century that scholars, through painstaking effort, managed to decipher cuneiform, unlocking the secrets of these ancient civilizations. It was like finding a key to a lost library, a library containing the first words ever written by humanity. And it all started with a Sumerian scribe, a reed stylus, and a piece of wet clay trying to solve a very practical problem: how to keep the books straight. So the next time you write a to-do list, send a text message, or read a book, take a moment to think about the Sumerians. These incredible innovators, driven by the needs of their growing cities, gave the world one of its most powerful gifts. They took mud and reeds and created a technology that would change the course of human history forever, allowing us to build on the knowledge of the past and speak to the generations of the future. The clay tablet was the world's first hard drive, and its data is still teaching us about who we are. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. What do you think is the most fascinating aspect of the Sumerian tablets? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more deep dives into our incredible shared history. We'll see you in the next one.